Alright, I'm going to change the strings on this string through bridge ukulele. As you can see, these strings go through the bridge, through the soundboard, underneath. So you can take the time to go to the tuners and twist them off, but if you're not going to be saving the strings, you might as well save yourself a lot of time and just cut the strings. So I'm going to do that first. And there are a bunch of reasons you might want to replace strings. You may want a different type of string. Different types of strings have different types of sounds and so forth. And then, oh, by the way, when I cut those off, that loosens this whole thing up, and it becomes very easy to just pull off the loose ends. And then what I'm really curious at is how Enya here threaded these guys through. Now, I probably should have cut them off a little bit earlier, or closer to the headstock, so that I could make sure that I had enough leads so that they're not loose in there. But even if they're loose, it's not a problem because they'll eventually shake out. And sometimes, if there's just a knot there, they'll feel a little stuck there. So if you give it a little pressure, you can push it through. Yeah, and I should have cut those a little bit more space. Now I can feel it in here. So there's one of them, and if you can look, Enya did tie the string around a bead, and you can salvage these. You can get a scissors and you can cut that extra string off and then just tie that through. Now I did go to Walmart, and for $1.63 bought an entire big container of beads. So if I ever want to use a bead in any other application, that's the way to do it. But now I've got this set to go. So I'm just going to pull out the rest of these strings and then get to the next part of this. So I'm going to stop the video here for a second and move to the next part. Now the ukulele is ready for new strings. You can see you have this spot, you have the saddle up here. On some ukuleles those are loose, as this one is, and could fall out. On some ukuleles the nut up here is loose, and sometimes I just find it helpful just to make sure that the heads of the ukulele, the holes, are all turned in a way that help the string when I tighten it. I kind of like the holes being at a 90-degree level. You don't, or a 90-degree angle. You don't have to do that, but for me it just makes things a little easier so that the string catches, and I'll show you how I do it. Although there are some people that thread ukulele strings in a different way than I do. So, my particular ukulele strings of choice are these Martin & Company ukulele strings. These are for soprano or concert. Those are the string gauge sizes, but that quite honestly won't matter too much to most people. Just ukulele strings. They're clear fluorocarbon strings, the M600s. So you just open that package, and then you get 4 different packages in there. Some ukulele strings will just be wound with a little label around it. So you have first, second, third, and fourth strings. So now what I'm going to do is put those strings on. I'll show you how I'm going to do that, and I'll do it one at a time. So I'm going to start off, if you're playing your ukulele, the string on the bottom is the first string. Okay, so once that string is out of your package, what you're going to do is go to your ukulele and feed it through. And you're just going to walk it through, and remember which side you're on. And if you don't see it right away, that's okay. Just going to keep feeding it through until you see it in the ukulele. And you can even shake your ukulele a little bit and twist it around and work it through, and there it is. So then what you're going to do is take one of your beads and put that on. Now if you notice, I didn't want that to quite happen. Just take it back the other way. There we go. What you're going to do is you're just going to tie a knot at the end of that string. So you go around and you tie it once. You want it to be somewhat close to the end, not super close to the end. Then tie it again. Now you could tie a grinding knot in there. You could tie just a couple normal overhand knots. It doesn't really matter. because again, you're taking the pressure off of the string and putting it onto the bead. Now this is one of my tools that I use for a string change. This is just a string winder, so you put that on the head and you can just turn it like that. It also has a clipper on it that's kind of nice. You can absolutely use a scissor, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tighten that. Grab it and tighten it. And then I'm going to cut off a little bit of the excess so you can leave some of it hanging in there. And then I'm just going to pull it through the ukulele. And then what I do is I put it up here on the edge. Now, since I'm changing all 4 strings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed all 4 at the same time instead of doing one and then, because that gives me more room to fish out a string. Now, I could fish out a string if the other strings were there, but I'm just going to do that for now. So I'm going to quickly go and feed the other strings in and tie the remaining beads on the end, and then I'll get to stringing. Well, 2 things just happened as I was filming. My phone died, battery died, and it started raining outside. So I had to come inside to our basement, so I'll do the best that I can with this last part here. Now you can see on this ukulele, all the 4 strings are just hanging through. If you accidentally push it through and it falls through, then you're going to have to pull it out, rethread it, to cut off the bead, rethread it, and do it again. There is extra material on the strings, which I don't save, and that's just a personal preference. And what I'm about to do is to show you the most controversial part of my process. And here we go. So, what I'm going to do is take the first string and feed it up to the top of the ukulele. Now, again, I'm sorry for the filming here and the light, but I'll do my best. If you remember, I turned those at 90 degrees. Then I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it through like that. And that's now sticking through the ukulele. Now, what I like to do is this. I like to hold it in the actual groove at the nut. And for the first string and 4 strings, I don't really leave any slack. It's pretty much tight all the way down. If you notice, if you can see the string there, light's bad down here in the basement, but that string is now tight. And what I'm going to do is I have a string winder like this, and I'm going to tighten that string. Now, if you'll notice, the string actually has to be twisted down because you want it to loop this way. So if I continue to twist that down, you'll see how it starts to turn around. And then this loose end has to be above the string. And then this string winder does that much easier. And again, you don't have to buy a string winder. You can buy the handheld one too. And eventually what you do is you get that up to pitch. Now, for the moment, I don't have to worry about that. I can check that with a tuner later and be ready to go. And I'm going to do that with all 4 strings. And the one trick I want to show you is this. I'm going to jump to the 3rd string, which is the C string. That's the thickest string. And that's that one right there. If you notice how much extra you get. Now, here's the secret that I have. Is I pull it tight to the top, to the spot in the nut where it belongs. Like this. Okay, so I've got that tight. But then with the C string and the E string, I leave some extra space, some more with the C string, just because it needs some more as you wind it up. And on this one, I'm going to stick it through. And again, most people would do this 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm just making a quick video here to show you how it's done. And again, I've got some slack in the C string, 3rd string, and the 2nd string. I'll also leave some slack because they're just thicker strings. And then, same ultimate direction of turning. You want it to go this way so that this top part goes over the top of the other. So if I keep going like that, it will eventually tighten up. And again, with a string winder, that's much faster. And this one will tighten up quicker than the others. But it's also interesting how much more So I'm just going to do this really quickly with the last 2 strings, and then I'll come right back on. Okay, so here it is, all strung up, Obviously you can't see the beads on the top, and here is the top, and it's a mess. Now, a few seconds ago I talked about how I do this in a controversial way. The controversial way is that I just thread it through and let it wind itself. And I've now done this with more than 100 ukuleles, and I've never had a problem. Some people like to save the string, but some people like to, when they're actually threading it through, they like to feed it through and then feed it through again. So it becomes kind of its own loop as you wind it, but I've never had to do that with any kind of ukulele string that I've used. Now the one thing is, if you're going to save these top strings, you want to coil them up, because again, if your string breaks somewhere, maybe you have a little extra to work with. But the truth is, ukulele strings are cheap enough, and particularly Martins, that why would I do that? So what I do is I come down here and I use my clipper that's on my deal, and I just walk right up the string and cut it somewhere close, and then that's going to be a much cleaner look. So that's how you change a through the soundboard, through the bridge ukulele string.